It's 97.1 Wadsworth Community Radio here, and in the studio with us we have Frances Jo Hamilton, the new Director of Revitalization for Heritage Ohio. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Welcome to Wadsworth.
Thank you. It's a lovely town.
Oh, good. Had you, before we get into everything, had you been, of course you were in Delaware, and we'll get into all your background there. Did you get to come up to Northeastern Ohio much, or?
Yes, I've actually been able to visit many communities in northeastern Ohio. We've got a large concentration of Main Street communities in this area.
So we know, of course, Medina and Worcester being more in our proximity here. So, well, tell us a little bit about your background, and of course, you grew up in Delaware, your hometown there, and then were part of that program before you transitioned into this job. So, give us a little bit of your background there with the Delaware Main Street program.
So I started with Delaware in 1999 as a volunteer working to give downtown walking tours. I have lots of great little stories about my grandmother in the downtown. She and my grandpa were both building and business owners, and so when their Main Street community came about, then they asked me to try to endear the community to the downtown by telling little history and stories about my grandmother. So I started as a volunteer in 99. And then quickly became a committee member, joined the design committee, and then became the committee chairperson, which gave me a seat on their board. And in 2007, they were hiring, I don't know what number director they were on at that point in time. They'd been through quite a few. We were the poster child for the rotating door of directors. So I got to see that from a bird's eye view, and we needed a director, and I was looking for a full-time job.
Right place. There you go.
Perfect fit.
Very good.
Okay, you've traveled the state. You've seen other communities. Can you, with a broad brush, kind of generally speaking, what do you see in these downtowns across the state of Ohio? And let's subtract out, Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, Akron, all of the really large downtowns that have their own things. But what about kind of small town Ohio? What are kind of the characteristics that you feel that make these special places for their communities?
Well, small downtowns always feel homey, even if it's not your home. So that's one of the things that I really love about small downtowns. And when you talk to people about where they like to go on vacation, then usually they'll describe some place that almost always involves an eclectic mix of little shops and privately owned restaurants and things that you can't just get anywhere. So being in these small downtowns, even though they're all very unique in their own right, they are also very similar in that they offer something so unique and something that everybody enjoys.
When you travel the state, do you also see common problems that these downtowns, that some of them face because, for various reasons, maybe it's financial, maybe it's other reasons that they haven't been able to kind of continue the growth that they have had in the past?
Sure. Small downtowns most often suffer from vacancies, buildings that have been untended to for 30 to 50 years sometimes, and trying to get those building owners and the community members all on the same page and sort of reinvesting in that downtown, but all the while trying to make sure they remember that their downtown has been there and paid for 200 years. We're not paying for new utility lines to be run or electricity or roads or services. Those are all already there, and the buildings are already built, and all we need to do is just put a little love into them, and all of a sudden you've got 2, sometimes 3 stories of usable, rentable economic development in your downtown.
And the one thing that's important, that's that gem or whatever for a downtown, is the even businesses that are outside of town or larger or might not have an interest. I mean, there might be, and we have some of them here, that are international corporations that really don't provide any services for what we would need here, but they're located here because of that small town, because their employees are down here. I'm sure you found that the town is a draw for those businesses, correct?
Absolutely. The city's economic development in most small communities, such as Wadsworth, will often use the downtown as a selling point for these larger corporations to come into their communities. Those bigger businesses mean employees are going to be moving into your areas. They're going to be looking at schools. They're going to be looking at houses. They're going to be looking at quality of life. And nothing gives quality of life like a vibrant center core, which is your downtown.
And those people, that's where they're going to spend their money.
Absolutely.
Where does Main Street fit in with all of this? Is it kind of an umbrella organization? Are there specific things that you, as director of revitalization here for these downtown areas, can do to help the ones that are in need, and even help the ones that are somewhat successful?
It's sort of an approach. It's a 4-point program that, when implemented well in these communities, it's kind of a fail-safe. The 4 things that we recommend that you do, which is focusing on design, economic vitality, promotion of your organization and your community, and then organization to get your organization together, are all things that really work well together. And that overreaching program of Main Street offers a statewide support system through Heritage Ohio. So you've got 22 other Main Street communities that you can tap into for support and ideas, and nothing wrong with a little rip off and duplicate in that case. And then just following that tried and true format, it really works. It just works.
Well, we had, and again, you talk about the small town draw, the that feeling. When we had our bicentennial here a couple years ago, and again, part of the Main Street, we've been doing it all along, on sort of on our own, and then of course we received the desert, or we went ahead and got involved more so, but we really realized during the bicentennial how the community comes together and what the heartstring draw was to Wadsworth. Well, for example, we noticed it here on the radio station when we were down and we broadcast the Wadsworth Lady Grizzlies down in Columbus. The semifinal game, which wasn't televised, we were the only one there live. We had, again, this little station here, we had over 400 people around the world listening to that final game. So that draw is there, that feeling is there, and it's really neat when you have that small town feeling around a town like this.
Absolutely. And I think Main Street is really the epitome of that. It's so much more than, say, a business association would be, because it is community-wide. It depends wholeheartedly on the whole of the community to come around that table and to surround the downtown. It's an all-volunteer organization, usually, with the exception of, hopefully, a paid director, and pulling in that community, endearing them to the downtown again. And when you can have little kids in the downtown pointing out the projects that they worked on, the flowers that they planted, or the bricks that they helped put in the sidewalk, those are things that are lasting for them. And then when they're growing and they've got expendable income and they've got to pick a place to live, then those things all resound with them throughout the rest of their life.
Most of these downtown areas depend a lot upon retail as kind of a gathering place. Do you find that is correct, that it is a downtown more than just a bunch of shops and stores and shopkeepers and that? And should it, if it isn't, should it be more than that?
Well, it should be the sort of the living room of your community. It should be where, if you're sitting at home and you're thinking that you'd like to do something and maybe you'd like to be with other people, where do you think to go? You usually would not go out to the outskirts and sit in a run-of-the-mill restaurant that's in every community. You're going to come into your downtown where you know that somebody else is going to be there, because that's where people are gathering and joining their friends on a routine basis. So it winds up being more than just retail. Retail's a huge part of what we like to see in the downtown, but those gathering spaces, so social places like art galleries are great, coffee shops are fantastic, restaurants, places that people want to go in and they feel comfortable enough to stay there for several hours sometimes and sit and enjoy their friends, enjoy their families.
Mm-hmm. And I know it's nice. You go into some of the restaurants, here, and you go and sit down, and the waitress already brings your water or drink. She knows you. It's you're a regular, and she knows you, and that's really a neat feeling. Again, this is Wadsworth Community Radio 97.1, and Joe Jastrzemski and myself have in the studio with us the new director of revitalization for Heritage Ohio, Francis Joe Hamilton.
When you drive into Wadsworth, what'd you think? You drive in, you get past the our construction, which is which is difficult right now. But we know one thing about construction; it always goes away.
You bet.
So you drive into downtown. I mean, what do you think? This is this is just kind of a good feeling when you drive in and see this.
Absolutely, and that's something that we see across the state and actually across the nation with Main Street communities. There's something that sets them apart from other small downtowns. Things feel a little more cohesive. You've got great flower planters downtown. Your sweet potato vines are still doing wonderful, even though it's a little chillier outside right now. All those things say to me that there are people that are here who care about the aesthetics of the downtown and how it does feel when you drive into this community. And in spite of the rain, there was a lot of people walking on the sidewalk. And in fact, when I was stumbling to find the entrance to this building, there was somebody along the way that said, "Are you looking for the Main Street meeting?" So, you've come into a small downtown when nobody does know you, but they still know where you're going because you've been invited to the community.
Right. They're looking for you. Yeah. Now when you came into this building, did you happen to ride the elevator or not?
I did not ride the elevator, but I did see it.
That was the building here. The history of this bank building is and you talk about community coming together. It was originally started back just prior to the Depression, and then the Depression hit, and they couldn't finish the construction on it. And then later in the Depression, late 30s, we needed a bank. And the business people got together and pooled their money and finished the bank so that the town could thrive. Wow. And so that's why this building is here today. And, it was, again, finished around in 1940. But, again, it was finished by the business people to have a bank. So, again, that community spirit, it's been here and it's been coming together. And, again, I know it's all across Ohio and the United States, but there's all those little pockets of good stories like that make these towns the great little towns that they are.
Absolutely. And those are the kinds of things that really kind of make you well up inside, when you can hear a story about how a community came together, or even better yet, you get to be a part of that. It's just a really great thing.
Yeah, it is.
Before we close here, the Wadsworth's Main Street organization, a little over a year old or that. Is there a kind of a critical time when, you have to kind of just, get over the hump here? I know it's early in the downtown development here, but will there come crucial times when, or that you experience maybe in Delaware or other main streets you have found that, get to be crucial, and you really need to have the, community kind of get the shoulder to the grindstone and really get it going?
Well, I've seen lots of instances where community had to kind of pull together, and a downtown really ebbs and flows. And you'll go through periods of lots of nice new businesses coming in, and then maybe you'll go through a period where 2 or 3 businesses leave at the same time, and that's just the way
kind of the
things
way it is.
That are.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, but in in Delaware, I saw the community pull together. A year ago, Christmas time, we had a fire in one of our restaurants downtown, and all the restaurateurs came and surrounded Ron and really helped him. They put out donation boxes for things that the insurance wouldn't necessarily cover. It was the building next door to him that caught on fire. And then they hired all of his employees in the downtown in those other restaurants so that they could go back to work for him after he managed to get reopened. So, you do see communities really pull together in times of tragedy. And that's one thing that you hope you build with a Main Street organization is that inner network of those merchants and restaurateurs and business owners in the downtown so that they all feel like a bigger part of a family.
Right, and a lot of that it's not, and I'm sure you see this more than a lot of business owners might not realize it till they experience, but more restaurants, more hardware stores, the competition it's a good thing. Because I know you witnessed it here. We had a couple of restaurants come in here, in the last year or so, and they were very busy one Saturday. So the family said, "Well, we got the little kids. They're not going to wait very long. We'll go down the street and we'll come back here after church tomorrow." Mm-hmm. So it didn't take away from their business. It enhanced other businesses, and those people came back the next day. We've had people, while they were waiting in line at a restaurant, went down and either bought desserts or, hey, let's go over here and get a battery for the watch kind of it. I mean, it floats all boats. That rising tide floats all boats. And sometimes it's got to be, you've witnessed it, you've been experienced and driven that train, but it has to be a little bit frustrating to when you come into a community that doesn't really, to get those business owners to understand that.
Well, entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs for a reason. They, they're very self-sustaining. They want to do it their way, and getting them all around a table doing something cohesively together is not very easy sometimes. But when they do start to see that network can really work to their advantage, and we had a lot of years in Delaware where the restaurateurs felt very territorial in the downtown. But then when you start to think, do you eat more than once a week at the same restaurant? Generally not. So if we want to capture that same repeat customer in the downtown every day of the week, we've got to give them something to come for.
Right.
So food is a huge staple in the downtown. The local produce and local restaurateurs, and those are all very in vogue things right now. So buying into that restaurant business in the downtown is certainly beneficial to all the restaurants around them.
You see Main Street growing in Ohio, and is there anything that you can do as a director to help to grow the organization in more small-town Ohio?
So we routinely have meetings in communities that have not even begun this renovation or restoration or preservation project in their downtown. Sometimes we meet with communities like Wadsworth that have been doing this for, going on 13 years, and, they're pretty far along. But then we also meet routinely with downtowns that don't even know what they want to do next, but they just know they need to do something because they're missing out on something in the core, and they feel like, there's a hole there. So we're always meeting with other small communities that have interest in coming into the Main Street program, and it is an incremental process, and it's one that definitely needs to be sustained on a long-term basis.
Okay. Well, Joe, thank you very much for coming up here and joining us this morning, and welcome to Wadsworth.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
Anytime.
And often.
And often, yes.
Right.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Again, Joe Hamilton, the new Director of Revitalization for Heritage Ohio. It's 97.1 Wadsworth Community Radio.